So if your providers aren't helping enough patients, you may be going, well, how can I help my providers to get more people to say yes, therefore grow revenue, grow profitability of the practice? And today we're discussing exactly that and some of the strategic things that you can do that makes the providers' lives easier in order for them to get more people towards an outcome. Welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast. My name is Ollie Luke, and if you're a private practice hearing care leader that wants to grow recognition, reputation, and revenue, you're in the right place. Now, look, let's kind of dive into this because this is a sensitive topic because providers have friction around the term sales in many ways. What they're trained to do when they come out of school, sales is the taboo, right? Nobody wants to be seen to be a salesperson, but part of the job of a provider is to help people make their mind up. They're a professional mind maker-upper. People have a crossroads, they need to make a decision, and the words they say, the influence they have, will either guide somebody towards a decision of seeking help or potentially push them away to a point that they go and reassess their options, potentially go elsewhere. The challenge is that fine dynamic swing is pretty fundamental to how your business operates. And similarly, a little 10% swing in one direction or a 10% swing in the other can cause big compounding impacts. So doing everything you can in order to make your provider's life as easy as possible, therefore to help them make more people say yes, is probably in your interest. And I have three things that I want to share with you. Now, first of all, I do want to be very clear. None of the things that I'm going to share are specific things that your providers need to do. This isn't sales training for your providers. This isn't don't say this word, say this word. This isn't how to run your consultation process. But it is the things that you can do to make their life easier. Because there's an old saying that goes, sales is filling in the gaps that marketing left behind. I'll say that again. Sales is filling in the gaps that marketing left behind. Now, if you can get the marketing right, you can build the perfect conditions which make the selling easy. And that's what these three things are all focused on. And we'll tackle that to begin with, the sales and marketing dynamic. So first thing, we'll call it the sales marketing dynamic. Now, given that quote, if you get the marketing right, sales becomes easy. Sales is filling in the gaps that marketing leaves behind. The big challenge that a lot of practices have based on my experience and working with a lot of practices is the marketing is somewhat not there. And what marketing is perceived to be is ways to get leads, ways to get inquiries, ways to get bums on seats in front of provider. The puzzle with that is when you're just using ads, when you're just trying to get physician referrals, when you're just trying to get flow of opportunities, you're putting a significant amount of pressure on providers because they're having a lot of balls thrown at them and they're trying to catch those balls. Because fundamentally, if you're running paid ads and the headline is something about affordable hearing aids, and then patient responds to that, they come in and your provider's job is then to help that patient to navigate their options. What's in the patient's mind is, how cheap is this? How cheap is this? I want to spend as little as possible to get the outcome. Similarly, if the big focus is just on physician referrals because we're a local hearing care clinic, then what are we getting referred to us? People that have not come to the conclusion themselves they've got a hearing challenge, but they've been referred to say, go and get your hearing checked and then come back. Like the conditions are not right for somebody to come through the door and make a decision that's going to cost $7,000, $10,000, whatever it may be, in order to move forward with treatment. So when those conditions are occurring, help rate is naturally very low. Providers spend a lot of their time trying to convince somebody that doesn't want to be convinced or has a belief already walking into that appointment that just creates friction, which results in provider burnout. Now, if you can get the marketing dynamic correct, the sales becomes significantly easier. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, when somebody checks you out, let's say they come to your website, they're looking at you as a brand there, they're looking at you in order to make a decision on whether they should move forward with scheduling an appointment. Your job of marketing is not just to say, come through the door, everybody's welcome, come and schedule an appointment. Now that is in the marketing agency's interest, as I'll come on to in a moment, but the goal of your website, the goal of your brand needs to say, if you value this, this, and this, we are for you. If you value this, this, and this, go somewhere else. Like that should be the goal of it. because you may want lots of people on your schedule, but having the wrong people on your schedule is a very easy thing to do. Getting the right people on your schedule is the hard thing to do. And this is the puzzle with marketing agencies, because many marketing agencies, what they're striving for is to give you a report that says, we generated you X number of leads, look at us, keep paying us money. But generating leads isn't that difficult. Generating the right leads is the work. And this is where your marketing needs to tell that story. It needs to show who you're for and be very, very clear on that. And a great example of this is a practice we worked with recently in Colorado, because they had this puzzle for a long time. They were attracting a little bit of everything, did a lot of TPA, their identity wasn't very clear. And as a result, it was draining. It was mentally draining. Their schedule was always full. The business was doing okay, but it was just seeing the wrong types of patients constantly, which is exhausting. You're trying to convince people who don't want to be convinced. You've got a little bit of everything on your schedule. As soon as we cleaned up the story and made it very clear that what they are actually positioned for is patients that want the highest level of expertise, the highest level of service, and the highest level of care, then naturally, who are the patients that walk through the door? Perfect fit patients. And when they come in expecting that, and then you deliver that, significantly easier for them to make a decision. The marketing has done the work in order to pre-educate and pre-frame that patient of what they're stepping into. This isn't the cheapest option. This isn't a lowest cost option. This isn't a transactional solution. This is you coming on a journey with us towards better hearing. And once that's clean, then the sales becomes significantly easier. But this is the marketing and sales dynamic that is so key. You get it wrong, and the job of marketing is just to get leads and put all the pressure on your providers, then it becomes a big, big puzzle. If you get the marketing right, maybe there's less quantity of leads, but it's the right people coming through. Or maybe you get to a point where you get that perfect patient flow where you can do significantly more with a lean team. So the marketing and sales dynamic is so key. You get that bit right, your providers can help more people to say yes, because the people in front of them are already pre-framed, preconditioned that saying yes is probably what's going to happen, as long as your provider doesn't royally mess it up. Second big thing that will make your provider's life significantly easier, therefore help them to help more patients, is the way your pricing is presented. I had a conversation with a practice last week, and I shared, how does your pricing work? So talk me through it. And they said, okay, so we see the patient, we test their hearing, and then we present the options to them. And I was like, oh, cool. So how do you present it? What do you show them? Is it a presentation? Do you have it written down? And it was like, no, we just verbally tell them. And this isn't the first time I've heard this, but let's just zoom out for a moment here, right? We've got somebody in front of us who is struggling to hear, struggling to process sound. And what we're going to do is to try to tell them what the price is by verbally saying it to them. That's like going to the optometrist and you're struggling to see, and they present options to you and it's written down and they don't verbally tell you the price. Like, it's just adding a layer of friction and complexity to a process that already is full of friction and complexity. Like, the more you can simplify it, the better. Focus on the path to least resistance. And this means have your pricing easily presented in a way that makes it very clean and clear for a patient to understand. What the goal is, they should be able to look at it, understand it, and not need you to take them through every line to explain it. The more it is clean and clear and articulates its value without being overly explained, the easier it is for somebody to look, navigate their options, navigate a decision, and choose an option. Now, a big puzzle I find with the way pricing is presented in the industry, and this is a bit of a tangent but very much aligned to it, is we still as an industry sell hearing aids, which is a problem. Because the more a patient believes a solution to a hearing loss is a set of hearing aids, which is the myth and misconception that has been around for many, many years, to the point that if dad's struggling to hear at the dinner table, what everyone says is, Dad, you need hearing aids, right? That is the misconception and misbelief. Now, if you're still saying, okay, here are our hearing aid options, we have good, better, or best, and you get 3 years service, 3 years warranty, 3 years L&D, whatever it may be, then what are we telling the patient? We're telling them that what they're buying is very expensive hearing aids, especially when the patient could very easily, and they will, with a more educated patient coming through, who has access to more sophisticated research information, i.e. ChatGPT, whatever it may be, is if you say, look, we've got premium technology and we'll give you some service and we'll ensure you're covered by a manufacturer warranty, that patient will just do that same Google search online if they've not done it pre-appointment, and it will tell them that if they want to buy premium hearing aids, they can actually get them significantly less than they can with you. And that's because the entire dynamic is wrong. What you're telling the patient they need is a set of hearing aids. And that's playing towards this misconception that is going to ensure that you look very, very expensive and almost like you've got this big, big fat margin. What we need to instead package is the hearing care, with hearing aids being a component in it. Because what you're going to do is take that patient on a journey. You're going to take them through a methodical process that you've learned over the many years that you've done this as the expert in order to help them to achieve an outcome. And we need to not lose sight here. Patients aren't coming to you for hearing aids. They're coming to you for an outcome. The more you can make it clear that this is a treatment plan, this is the way we do things, this is where we're looking to get you to, here's how we're going to do it, and here are your options to get there, that will make it significantly easier. A hearing aid is a component of them achieving the outcome. The hearing aid isn't what they are buying or investing into. That is so clear. If you get that bit right, it's going to make sales significantly easier, and your providers are naturally going to make it much more simplistic for the patient to navigate their options, because outcome is what they want, and you can help them arrive at the right outcome. Third thing, and this is a little thing that I encourage you to implement that will make a world of difference. And that is how you can strategically get in the middle of that gap between when somebody schedules and when they turn up for their first appointment. Because as it stands right now, when patients schedule with you, they're all arriving at a different level on the decision-making scale. So let's say you've got Joe arriving for an appointment. Now, Joe has been told by his wife he needs a hearing test. He's not sold on it. He doesn't struggle to hear, but he's just trying to make his wife happy. He's that far into the decision-making process. And then on the other end, what you've got is Margaret. Now, Margaret is very different because Margaret's been thinking about this for a long time. She's had conversations with her friends. Her friends have recommended you. She's now scheduling with you because this is the year that she's going to buy hearing aids. She's got the money to hand, etc. She is a lot further along on that decision-making scale. All you need to do is make it easy for Margaret to say yes and not add any friction or resistance in that process. Now, the puzzle with that is when everyone's at different scales, sometimes your providers need to close that much of the gap, and sometimes they need to close that much of the gap. That is mentally draining, mentally exhausting, and results in it being difficult to even put a time on how long appointments should be in an optimal way. Now, if you can fill the gap between when people schedule and when they turn up with a piece of education and a sequence of education, then it will make a big difference to ensuring everyone is at a similar level of being pre-framed, pre-educated, and somewhat pre-sold on what's going to happen at the appointment and the options that are going to be available to them if treatment is required. And the best way I've seen this done is injecting a pre-appointment seminar. So when patient schedules, you're like, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Patient, we're looking forward to seeing you on this date at this time. Before you do it, really, really important, we need you to watch this short seminar we've recorded. It's 15 minutes. What it's going to do is help you ensure you're best prepared for the appointment, explain what's going to happen. Really, really important that you watch it. Can you promise me you're going to watch that ahead of your appointment? Yes. Perfect. You send it to them. Now, this is a video essentially, and it's a video from the owner of the practice that thanks them for scheduling, reaffirms that they've made a right decision by doing this, points to the fact that people wait too long, and gives them more credit for the decision they've made. It then overcomes many of the misconceptions that occur that hold people up from making a decision. It walks them through what's going to happen at the appointment, gives them further justification that they're in the right hands to achieve the outcome they're looking for, and then says you're going to reach a point if a hearing challenge is identified that can be treated, well, we'll walk you through our options. Here's a little insight into what they're going to look like. You do that bit right, people are turning up similarly positioned. They understand why you're the right fit. They're already pre-sold that you can help them to achieve the outcome they're looking for. They're preconditioned to the experience they're going to walk through with no surprises. And they're pre-sold by you showing those prices in advance. Now, you can clearly say on that video, look, if this isn't right for you or anything changes, please let us know. Our schedule's very busy, blah, 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 blah. And it may just save your providers some time sitting with the wrong people who are not in a situation where they can afford the investment being positioned to them, or are not in a position where they're ready to move forward with any form of treatment. all without your providers physically having to work harder, learning new sales skills. It gives you significant scale if you can get it right. Now, hopefully that has been helpful. A little favor to ask before I wrap up here. Now, the way the Business of Hearing podcast has always grown, and I was just checking then, we've surpassed 77,000 downloads, which is mind-blowing, right? That's a stadium, sold out on multiple nights. It's crazy to even put people towards those stats. But the way it's always grown in our tiny little industry is people telling people. People accidentally don't discover new podcasts very regularly. What they often do is hear about it from someone else. So if you know somebody in the industry that you think would benefit from listening to this, hearing this, whether it's a boss, a colleague, whoever it may be, then it would be much, much appreciated if you could spread the word, because a rising tide lifts all boats. And as an industry with so many threats against us, a rising tide is very, very healthy and helpful. But I'll be back again next week with another episode, and I shall see you.